Well, hello everyone. It's Shooter. Welcome to Primary Waves. I think it's December 17th or Sunday, December 17th. Of course, at the end of our presentation, please do review our disclosure. Now, today we're going to go over, a sector really in its infancy. It doesn't seem like it, but in 2019, the Space Force was created out of an appropriations bill. And that industry is just now starting to decide or design what they're going to do as far as a military presence in space. On top of that, we have satellite as a service on top of that is also growing. And then we also have mining, of asteroids and other things that are in the development. So this sector to us has a huge upside. So now, out of all of the tickers that I reviewed, UFO actually looks the most promising just because of where we are as far as the RSI structure. We held our prior lows at that 1494, I believe, or 1484. And now we've got a new primary wave as far as a look. Nice divergence from a low. So, nice bottoming pattern. Our intermediate wave target one is around 2176. Right now, we're about 1743 is the price. Then we pull back and get back to about 1763. So it's going to be a little challenging, I think. However, I'm going to suggest this. With how aggressive Elliott wave has been sort of considering market conditions and how quick we've gotten moving in some of these labels, this is really on the low side. I would not be surprised if we get back up to $30 really quick. This target 132.59. Once we get above this breakout line, we have like this resistance band now. It was support. Once we get above that, I would suspect that we get up there. Then we'll find out really how much FOMO is here. Obviously, it's like any sector. We need, obviously, some of the dominoes to fall in the right place for us to take a look at that. But let's jump out and take a look at the monthly. Primary wave 3 is way the heck up at $50. Now, that I'm showing that way the heck out 2027, 2028. So this is a long-term sector to look at, very much like genomic as far as DNA editing. Both these sectors are in their infancy. All right, now Rocket Labs really was number 2 again from the structure that we have. So target 1 puts us at about 1139. However, I'm not seeing that until after the second quarter, third, maybe even first of 2025, because we have a lot of work. This failure really hurt us, but it hasn't done anything wrong. Hopefully that makes sense. What I mean when I say it's done nothing wrong is that quite often a stock pushes and then it comes back and it needs to test its lows. And if I remember correct, there was, some kind of financing structure in Rocket Labs that I believe they've resolved now. So let's jump out and take a look at the monthly. So, our target 3, our primary wave 5, which is up around 1422. Now, this is a very shallow count. It's really difficult to project. The one thing I will say is if we close below the primary wave setup, you're going to want to trim to half and then plan on re-entering, because ultimately with the primary wave setup, that's what we want to do if the setup itself breaks. That ultimately is the floor. And I really don't have a problem with you going to a 0 position size, but that really is not the strategy within a position trader. We want to always maintain a piece of these shares that we think are going to move in the right direction is the thought pattern, because 7 out of 10 of these names that we have as far as microcaps should, head in the right direction for it. All right, let's take a look at Big Sky. Again, this base here. Now we closed below $1. I've changed my mind on the upside, but our intermediate wave 3 is around 372. This is more of a challenging base than the first 2 that I went back and reviewed, because this could be this is B, C's here, but at the same time, this could turn into a 333, and then we get another 535 down here. So, and basically a 535 is an ABC, a 5 wave at ABC. However, in this case, we got an ABC, a 5 wave, and then we got another 5 wave to the downside. So we got a 535, a 333, and then a 535. It always doesn't make sense when I say that, but they're types of patterns in Elliott wave. But looking at the monthly, Big Sky, has some decent upside, $14, on our wave 5. That's going to be way the heck out there. It could be just as quick as this. Realize Elliott wave as a pattern recognition app has no time frame attached to it. You have to go to other resources to be able to establish a time frame. So just as quickly as this went down, reversion to the mean up here can be just as quick. So all we need is a news event in black sky and boom, this thing is at 50% back easy of this entire leg. Now, what I'm measuring here is it's a real shallow measurement on the fib extensions. I'm measuring this is our low, this is our high, and then our low here as well. So it's a little shallow. If I bump this over and do the ABC, it pushes our 50% back up to about $9, right around where our primary wave 3 is. Actually, it's a little over 11, but somewhere in that range to the upside. All right, let's take a look at ITA, Aerospace Defense ETF. I mean, nice look here, nice breakout, nice pattern. Mound 1, mound 2, sort of in that grouping. Little congestion here, so I would expect maybe a little congestion here as we build this out. But our next intermediate wave 3 is up at 147, then we get back to maybe 130, so that's above where we are here. So we're ultimately chasing that 147. Now, again, when you have these topping patterns where you visually can see a flat building out, obviously it's your management of your book to decide how you're going to play that. I'm always the believer that if you're building a common share position, you really want to strategically use covered calls up here to sort of insulate your position to the downside. Or you take 50% off and still sell the covered calls, and then plan on scaling back in with some cash secured puts when we get back down around that 130. So structurally, you want to keep that in mind when you're looking at this symbol. Now, jumping out to the monthly, ultimately our C is up here at $1.63. Not much higher than the 147, but I would expect it. It's been a slow grind here. I would expect this to continue. This is a little broader, a little more emotional, but still same slope, same trajectory. So I would expect that to continue. However, one thing I'll say is this is very euphoric right here. So this could develop a bell curve and just go straight up from here. So this C could move way the heck over here to 180 visually, just from me looking at it in a longer time frame. So we could have some significant upside on that as well. Now, Planet Labs, again, another more challenging tape to analyze. Again, we break below that 204 or that $2. You want to be at least 50% and wait and see what happens because, this is our A, this is our B, and where's our C? This is really extended. It's not elongated. So elongated is going to put us down in a penny stock range. So that's the challenge with the way Planet Labs looks. However, our primary wave 1 is up at 497. So I believe we've got a daily trigger. It's worth a shot at half a position size here with this little back test and see where it goes. And then, from there, plan on scaling. Taking a look at the monthly, Planet Labs, we're looking at our primary wave 5 up around $10 longer term. So now that's coming in pretty quick as far as the count. So second, third quarter 2025 is what that would play out. Now, Palantir, we've been in this a little bit. And a couple of you were earlier before me. A couple of you had entered down here before we got to that low, which, turned out to be a great decision, by the way. So we've gotten our second breakout, but we're back testing this. So, I'm in a buy any dip mode on PLTR. Let's take a look at the monthly. Our primary wave 3 comes in around 28, and our primary wave 5 comes in around 35. So we got some significant upside in this as well, considering we're at $18. All right, looking at Spira Global. Got a nice breakout here. The only thing I don't like is where this primary wave 1 comes in at 889, our back test is down to $5. So it's really challenging entering here. But at the same time, I really don't have a problem chasing a $9 call here. I don't know that I would. You could still sell a cashier put, but you have to stay, February is about as far as you can go, and they're really not going to pay that well there. So we've got a weekly trigger and a breakout. So, we technically should be at a full position size, but I'm going to say if you do not have a position in Spiral, put a quarter on, wait for the back test, add, wait for the next back test and add. So you end up with an average in of maybe right where we are at about $7, and maybe you get a little better price. Is sort of my thought. Jumping out to the monthly, our 5 should be up around $22, $23 ultimately on this to the upside. So looking at about a 3x or 3-bagger here, ultimately going into 25, 26, I would think. Now, this is not as euphoric. Again, these short tapes are just very challenging to analyze because you don't have any history to go back on. So if we break below the 8-day, I'd be trimming to at least half. And let me just go over my methodology with primary waves. The primary wave setup was designed to help you scale in to mitigate your risk and do it in a technical way where we actually had defined positions. So once the 90-minute trigger triggers, you put a 0.25% on. The daily trigger triggers, you put another 0.25% position size on. The weekly trigger triggers, you do another quarter position. And then we get to the breakout, which ultimately is the same candle, by the way, on the weekly, where the weekly trigger popped. So the high side of that candle is where we're going to say our breakout, right? So now you're at a full position size. And then you're managing the stops according to where you are in the position. So, and that's one reason I like to jump back and forth between sometimes buying puts and sometimes buying calls, in addition to the cash secured puts, and in addition to selling covered calls, because they, at certain counts, they really will help you insulate. The challenging part is it's extremely time consuming for me. It's almost like I'm just managing your money for it. And, that's not something that we've really laid out in fundamental trends. However, I tend to be more inclined to head in that direction with a basket of stocks, because I think what I know about Elliott Wave is going to take any of you an extended period of time to learn. And there's going to be a number of you that are challenged with that just because of your job duties or whatever. Or you have no interest in doing that. You just want somebody to say, hey, okay, sell cash secured books at $9. Okay, I can appreciate that. That's really what my charts are designed to do, to say, hey, so you see target one, that's a good spot. Maybe sell some $9.50 or $10 covered calls, right? And if it really starts to move to the downside and a quarter of the way in there, you get a nice rejection candle off price. Wait for a little back test to the high side and then maybe add a few puts. Always wait for the back test. Always wait for the back. Always wait for the back. Always wait for the back test. Did I say that? I don't know. Okay, so let's take a look at Statalogic. I actually like this here. I really do. We don't really have a divergent low. So maybe one more low, or we could get a second one, which would make it a penny stock. That's challenging. Because obviously a stock below $10 isn't on the fund's shopping list, regardless of what it does. Okay. However, our target is 343. So we have a weekly trigger and a little breakout line here, which, forgive me, it's not on this chart, but it's too much work. Go back and switch at this point, so we're rolling. All right. So target about 343, then we get a back test about 245. So it's a good spot to enter at $1.85, because you can even buy 250 calls. I believe there were 250 calls on this. Maybe there were only 250 and 5. I'm not recalling. I haven't looked at the options in a bit, but even some cash secured puts right there, are it's, to me, I think it has some significant upside because of this range that we're here. I mean, $11 to $3. I mean, that's a huge range right there. So that implies to me we're getting back here, at least $7. And, when I jump out and look at the monthly, our primary wave 5 is right there at 661, right in the middle. So now the way that I've measured this leg is, it's challenging when you don't start from a low and you have this flat here. Fibs don't give you a good view. But if I drop the fibs down to our primary wave 3 and down to our 4 and measure up, it pushes our fibs up here to around 123.6, around $8. So, again, this has some significant upside because, again, we got a short tape. Very challenging to measure here. Again, we break below the primary wave setup, trim to at least half. That's the rule. Okay. And I've just built that in there, to help us. So, all right. Now, last but not least, it has a good mix of space stocks and defense stocks, this PPA Invesco. Now, I don't really like where it's at, but it's just like this stability in a sector that's evolving. So if defense continues to build, and realize after the Ukraine and after Israel, those two countries alone are going to spend probably more money than we've budgeted in defense over the next 3 to 5 years, because they're going to be building back up their arsenal and they're going to be putting this protective web over their country, which is very expensive. So, and that's going to take a little time. So I think the defense stocks will stay on the uptrend. And then adding in a mix of aerospace stocks, I kind of like that. My only challenge is where we are in the tape. This is primary wave 3 up here around 92, which is about right where we are. So that's pretty challenging, but we're probably going to build out this flat and stay above this $86. So the next entry long for me would be down right at $80.39. But I wanted to throw it out there on your radar and maybe put some good to cancel orders in at $81. And then if they get filled, great. If not, rinse and repeat and put some more orders there. So if it does get a flush for whatever reason, you get something filled, because I like those good to cancel orders. I mean, to me, I get an idea, throw something on, and if it works, great. If not, it's not going to offend me. I get a list of what expires, and I get a list of what's been filled. So it's fantastic. But that's what I have for today, folks. Great trading. Until next time.